Welcome back. Good Thursday morning, everybody. Thanks very much for being here this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Thursday, June 8th. It is 7 a.m. on the East Coast. The FBI is now allowing the entire House Oversight Committee to view that subpoenaed document that allegedly ties then Vice President Joe Biden to a $5 million criminal bribery scheme where he took money for policy decisions. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer is accepting the Bureau's offer and canceling the committee's plan to vote to hold the FBI Director Christopher Wray in contempt of Congress. Comer says in a statement last night, quote, allowing all Oversight Committee members to review the record is an important step toward conducting oversight of the FBI and holding it accountable to the American people. This, as former Attorney General Bill Barr is saying that any claims by Oversight Ranking Member Jamie Raskin that the Trump DOJ investigated the document and dismissed it are wrong. Barr confirming that, in fact, it was not dismissed, but it was sent to Delaware for further investigation. Joining me right now is Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. He's a member of the Oversight and Accountability and Judiciary Committees. He's also the chairman of the Subcommittee on Crime and Federal Government Surveillance. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Do we know why Bill Barr sent it to Delaware and did not continue the investigation?
My understanding is that he sent it to the U.S. Attorney in Delaware for additional preliminary investigation to determine whether there was a predicate for full investigation. So I think that was probably a standard practice.
So what are your thoughts in terms of where this stands now with Christopher Wray allowing or about to allow the Oversight Committee to view this document?
Well, I think it's a good first step and a victory for us. But I want that document and I want to see it. But I've also been told that there's going to be additional documents, FD 1023s, that they're going to provide to us, that they want to give us. I don't know if they want to give us, but they're going to provide us with additional documentation. That will then allow our investigation to spread out because my understanding is that there's additional references in there to potential misconduct, criminal. It should not just misconduct. It's criminal conduct. We're talking pay for play. I'm also told that the dollar amounts are far higher than even we've been led to believe, and it leads right to Joe Biden. That's what I've been told, and so. When we get those additional documents, my guess is we're going to get in probably a tussle because they will lead to additional documents and as we expand our investigation.
Well, this is incredible. I mean, how long has this been going on and how much higher are the numbers in terms of how much money Joe Biden and his family has taken in from foreign nationals?
Well, it's been going on. We know at least the records indicate the last 2 years or so of the Obama-Biden administration. The numbers are in the millions higher than have been reported. So, and also, Maria, there's additional information from other sources that we've seen that we're not talking just Ukraine and China and Romania anymore. We're talking additional countries with, whether they're individuals who have official ties or unofficial ties, they are sending money to this myriad of LLCs and this web of bank accounts as well that end up sometimes even end up in the grandkids of Joe Biden's bank accounts. So this is really complex. But I will tell you that I think Mr. Chairman Comer and the Oversight Committee has actually produced more and found out more in about 4 months' time than the FBI did in 6.5, 7 years.
Unbelievable. So, I mean, what about that? The fact that they completely ignored all this evidence. And how much money are we talking about? I mean, at one point, James Comer said that he definitely identified $10 million which Joe Biden took in. Is it 10 million? Is it 20 million? Is it 100 million?
That's what we don't know. We know it's in 8 figures. I mean, when you think about it. So that's a ton of money. What was he giving in exchange of it? Was it some access, pay for play? We have everything from a Tony Bobulinski statement years ago saying that Joe Biden was the big guy taking the 10% skim. So when you start looking at this whole thing, this has gone on for years. This document, just remember, 10 days ago, the FBI was saying this document did not exist. and now they've had to admit that it does exist. Makes you wonder: did Christopher Wray know and then cover it up, or did Christopher Wray not even know? And then when we started putting pressure on, that he discovered and found out that they actually had it. The bottom line is the FBI comes off looking again weaponized. It looks as if it's biased. And that's the worst case. I mean, and the best case for them is that it looks like they were incompetent. So this is a real problem for them, but it's a problem for the United States of America because the appearance is that Joe Biden is compromised through that web of deceit between his brother and his family and his kids, Hunter Biden, doing these transactions and taking money and from all over the world.
Unbelievable. We've got more emails from Hunter Biden's laptop that have come to light. The president's son thanked a top Burisma executive for the birthday gifts that he was sent. He described them as far too extravagant while Hunter was serving on Burisma's board. This was weeks before the top Ukraine prosecutor investigating the energy company was actually infamously fired. Remember, Joe Biden wanted the guy fired, Congressman. So what about these emails? Thank you for the birthday gifts. It was far too extravagant, but much appreciated. Is that raw cash or something else?
Well, we're not quite sure what he got there, but it is exactly what you're saying. And I think people need to understand that whole scenario, the Ukrainian AG is actually investigating Burisma. And then Joe Biden puts pressure on with official U.S. dollars, threatening to withhold them unless that prosecutor was withdrawn. So is this a quid pro quo? That's what it begins to look like. We have to check out the temporality of it. We have to determine what was actually exchanged there. But if we're starting to talk quid pro quo and pay for play and access purchasing, you actually have probably the biggest scandal in American history, biggest political scandal in American history, because you would have a vice president who was on the take, and that becomes something that is absolutely reprehensible, obviously. But then the fact that this information was withheld prior to the 2020 election, suppressed, that Hunter Biden laptop was suppressed, and this document that we're getting today has been around since 2017. So all of this stuff was suppressed. And so the American people did not have true information and facts going to the polling place about Joe Biden.
Well, it's even worse than that, Congressman, because in the middle of all of this, they impeached Donald Trump for a phone call that he had with the head of Ukraine, Zelensky. So they're impeaching Trump while at the same time knowing all the goods that they have on Joe Biden. Look, if this is all proven, and you all come out and you have the evidence that Joe Biden and his family has been selling America out now for a decade while he was vice president, where is this going? They impeached Trump. Are you going to move to impeach Joe Biden?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He would need to be impeached. And then once he was impeached, hopefully there'd be some Democrats in the Senate that would recognize how grave the situation is and encourage him to resign like Goldwater did to Nixon. But once he's out of there, then he would have to be indicted because this is gross criminal misconduct. And some would even suggest treasonous, but I'm holding my tongue on that just yet. But we have got to find out how extensive this was. And then we have to take action. I mean, enough talk is talk. But if we produce this evidence that that's starting to pile up, by the way, there's so much evidence, it's voluminous. It's taking everything we have with our staff to go through this. But as it piles up, if it is consistent with where the direction it seems to be headed, he should be impeached. And the Democrats cannot defend them with the lies going on that we heard earlier this week. They're going to have to come to grips with this thing.
Yeah. So then we get Kamala Harris in there. Does that play into your thinking?
Yeah. I mean, Kamala Harris, not even the Democrats want her to be president even for a day. The reality is this government is kind of being run by the cabinet officials anyway. It's kind of an oligarchy situation. But that cannot enter into our calculation because what Joe Biden is alleged to have done is so grave and serious that we have to face the facts that if you're stuck with Kamala Harris for 6 months to a year, you're stuck with her for 6 months to a year. The reality is, though, the allegations are very, very serious on what the White House did, but they're also serious at what the police apparatus at the federal level did to cover this up and, like you say, facilitate the attack on Donald Trump, the weaponization against Donald Trump, and actually other conservatives.
Okay, Congressman, we'll be watching this. This could not be more important. I recognize that. The most serious allegations ever leveled at a president, and the mainstream media will not report it. Amazing. Congressman, thank you. Andy Biggs joining us this morning on all of that.